Hi, welcome to the Viewfinder podcast. My name's Brody.
Yeah, I mean,
So what,
you have
did
to
you
lead
do that?
into
Did
the
you like
hi,
hi?
but
Yeah.
Sally and I just like,
Yeah.
but I like kind of you do the cold open, like we're just kind of sitting around talking, and then you're like, oh, hello.
Welcome to the Viewfinder Streaming Podcast, a weekly discussion on the latest news and releases from the world of Netflix, Stan, and Foxtel, presented by finder.com.au. Join our hosts Adam, Ali, Sally, and Brody on their journey north of the wall, west of the world, and just south of the upside down.
Welcome to
Enjoy.
the Viewfinder podcast, episode 3. We finally have Ali back. Hey, Ali.
hello!
Oh.
I've been walking for 2 weeks straight over the harbour bridge and I finally made it.
Prodigal son.
Oh my gosh.
She had to wrestle so damn many people
Oh
along
my
the way.
god. Wow.
Then she climbed the bridge. The police were called again.
It was a
It was-
whole kerfuffle.
She wrestled her way through a gauntlet of a rogue's gallery of toughs to get here.
There'll be a
So-
Netflix adaptation
Oh.
of the story
Can we
coming.
get a
That's
zoom
right.
in on that? Sorry.
Gun
No.
show.
We can't because we only have a static shot, but you can imagine what it would be like.
Yeah, zoom your
And-
eyes into that.
Exactly. Just move your face closer to the screen to look at Ali's biceps.
And for those listening,
Just imagine.
on the podcast, just imagine Ali's massive
I
guns.
forgot this is also a podcast. And the
It's
whole,
both,
yeah.
yeah.
We are both in the visual world and the audio world, which is two
Yes, Ali.
different worlds.
Uh,
Isn't it good to have me back?
So
oh
we got
man, we missed
Ali,
this. a
Adam,
lot.
and Sally with us today. We're going to talk about some news up top, move into what we've been watching, and then we're going to talk about TV shows and movies that couldn't be made in 2018. So we decided to go a little broad with this. We're looking at things that couldn't be done because of technology and how that's advanced, and things that simply couldn't be made because they're pretty edgy. So first up, I am super excited to talk about this news story, but TJ Miller on March 18th intentionally conveyed to law enforcement false information about an explosive on a train traveling to Connecticut. So basically, TJ Miller, star of Silicon Valley, ex-star of Silicon Valley is out now, has called in a bomb threat on an Amtrak train. This is very entertaining to me. I don't know why. TJ Miller seems to be both everywhere. He was in Ready Player One. I forgot to mention that. He's one of the main villains. TJ Miller. He was he was basically the main villain's proxy into the virtual world. The guy was actually good at video games.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, sorry, I know I wasn't here last week, but
Oh, sorry, yeah. Catch up, Ali.
Continue.
He's both everywhere. Deadpool, Ready Player One, and he also seems to be going through, that post-career crisis in so many ways.
While his career is still flourishing,
Yeah.
it's like he's kind of falling apart and fast forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exploding, if you
So he's obviously left Silicon Valley due to creative differences. He's been in.
He liked to create drunkenness, and they were not so happy about
Yeah,
it.
exactly right. And
Boy, that's verging on libel. Sorry, TJ Miller.
look, I'm not against TJ Miller. I do like. I like.
funny.
Yeah, he is very funny, but he sounds like a bit of a pain in the ass. So he was drunk also when he called in this bomb threat. So let me just. It gets a little confusing. The actor and comedian told the dispatcher that there was a bomb on an Amtrak train traveling to Connecticut. TJ Miller wasn't on this train. He was on a train traveling from Washington, D.C. towards Penn Station in New York. All the passengers were obviously kicked off of the other train. People were tweeting about it at the time, not knowing that it was TJ Miller. What I love about this is it seems like one of those maths problems. It's like, if you've got a drunk TJ Miller traveling to Penn State,
How
he
long
calls
will
in
it
a
take
bomb
him to
threat.
call-
kilometers per hour.
Oh man.
Brilliant.
And obviously, like the people, as soon as they got kicked off that train, a bunch of them were like, "I bet this is that TJ Miller pulling shenanigans."
That prankster.
If I know TJ Miller, and I think I do, this seems a lot like his handiwork.
I'm gonna think that in any emergency situation.
TJ.
It was actually TJ climbing the harbour bridge last week.
Yeah, like anytime there's some sort of horrible catastrophe, like it sounds like that scamp TJ Miller is at
A
it
smile
again.
just spreads across your face. You look off in the distance. Oh, TJ.
Classic.
It is.
Shenanigans.
That's classic TJ for you.
So he was ultimately released on a $100,000 bond. If they hadn't have paid that, the charge could have carried a maximum term of 5 years imprisonment. So, yeah. Good job getting out of that. Ali.
What am I going to talk about, guys?
What did you do this week?
Not only were you not
What
here
did I
last
do
week,
this week?
you were also away on Monday because you were very busy watching.
And if you guys recall from episode 1, see, we're linking everything together.
Mm.
What was on
Circles
Monday?
I believe it was Wrestle Day.
Wrestle Day!
Wrestle Day! Wrestle Day!
We'll add in the
So-
John Cena theme song.
Yeah.
Na, 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 na.
So let me ask you this:
Yes,
did people wrestle each other?
they did. And it was during the day.
What was
And
the
also
outcome of this wrestling?
Look, there were some winners, there were some losers. Some of those losers were the audience. Some of the winners were the wrestlers,
So,
which is pretty sound.
what a great summation.
You're welcome.
You say some of the losers were the audience. Were you not pleased with Wrestle Day 34?
Look, Wrestle Day 34 was pretty good up until it reached maybe like 4 hours into it, where it was just like, it just got too much. For context, I started at 7 o'clock in the morning. I finished at about 2:30 in the afternoon, and so that's like
That's a lot
someone
of wrestling.
who's good at maths here. 7 hours.
Brody, you had that train.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if TJ Miller was on a train to wrestle to WrestleMania,
The Rock intercepts.
Yeah, look, it was pretty good. There were some wonderful female matches. Female. Very biological here. Ooh. Chicks.
Tell me more.
But kind of towards the end, the last 2 or 3 matches was where it kind of like lost the plot a little bit. I know you guys are super invested in wrestling, so I'll kind of like elaborate on this for you. There was a really weird tag match where they brought a child from the audience to be a tag partner, and then they won the belts.
and then they just beat the piss out of a small child. Who wins that match? All of us.
All of us, yeah. Yeah, anyway, they won these title belts. This 10-year-old child called Nicholas, who, he's a guy.
Was he a heel or a face?
He was a face.
Oh.
Yeah, which is, I don't know.
Would have
I think
been
they
better
went
if
the
he
wrong
was a
direction.
heel.
Yeah, they went the
If
wrong
he was like
direction
giving
with it.
the finger to the
Yeah.
audience, like, yeah,
Yeah,
and they're like,
cheer for me.
"Boo."
I'm done with homework. And then the main event was pretty terrible. There was actually a chant going on at one point where people were chanting, "This is awful." because
Whoa.
Wow.
People hated it.
What was the main event?
Polite
What-
chant. This is awful.
We are displeased. Where did Cena versus Undertaker fall in this whole thing?
It came in the middle. It happened. Everyone knew it would happen, and it happened, and then it just
Okay.
went.
Mm.
So it was kind of like, oh, that was
Spoiler.
nice. We knew that was going to happen, and it's done now.
And did Cena beat the Undertaker?
No, God, they
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to do that.
No,
Everyone
he
would
can't.
riot.
Yeah, that'd be awful.
Undertaker. Undertaker won, which was nice for him, I suppose. I suppose he's less angry now, and
He's an
everyone
old
else
man.
is less angry, which is nice. But yeah, the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar match, terrible. Like 3 moves, just like over and over again. Everyone didn't like it. Then you go to Reddit and Twitter, and everyone's just like, "This is terrible. I hate everything." But yeah, that's Wrestle Day for you.
At any point, did someone fall in a bag of thumbtacks?
No, but that did. Have you watched that match?
Yeah.
Oh my
Who
God.
hasn't watched the thumbtack
Oh,
match? I
That
mean,
is
wow,
like
that's
real, isn't
Oh,
it?
it's sticking out of his eyebrow.
Oh.
Like, holy
Oh,
cow.
It's so bad. There's like all these thumbtacks in his back. And it's
Yeah,
like,
no,
Oh.
that's like you don't fake rolling around in thumbtacks.
I don't think you're allowed to do that anymore. To be honest.
I think we all lost a little something there.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's PG now.
So you can't pull a kid up from the audience and like throw him into a pile of thumbtacks anymore.
What is the
Times
world
have
coming
changed.
to?
Unless it's in Nevada, then
Yeah.
I think it's still legal in Nevada.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wrestle Day.
Speaking of times are changing, so
Oh.
well, what a segue!
He's been working on that. He's just like, no one's saying anything. No one's pointing.
Stop right there. The problem with Apu. So this documentary came out last year. It's been around for a while now. It's just that the Simpsons finally got around to addressing it. For those that don't know, The Problem with Apu is a short 50-minute documentary by comedian Hari Kondabolu, sorry, butchered that. And it's about the character of Apu being the only representation basically anybody had anyone from South Asian heritage had for years, and the problems that character caused for them throughout their lives. You know, just the slurs, like repeating the characters like iconic phrases back at them in the street, all that sort of stuff, and the fact that Apu is notoriously voiced by a white voice actor, Hank Azaria. The documentary is not like Hari is actually a massive fan of The Simpsons. He just hates the character Apu for all the problems that it's caused him. And The Simpsons finally retorted to that in a fashion that people are not very happy with.
It was pretty terrible. It was a pretty terrible way of doing it.
Yeah, they totally TJ Miller that. So, okay, let's talk about it. First of all, this isn't the most important thing, but it's so like unlike The Simpsons that I know. Like even from a humor point of view, like there's no humor there. Like the whole addressing the camera thing just feels so distant from like The Simpsons that I remember. Yeah. Admittedly, I haven't watched it in years because, like, you know, as everybody says, golden years of The Simpsons is gone. There's the fact that it's the Lisa Simpson is the one giving this speech directly to the camera. The
ostensibly progressive character.
Yeah.
Who's basically saying everyone stop being so politically correct.
Exactly right. And just that it's probably like the weakest stance that they could possibly take on it. Like, you know, they're saying that it's, you know, what can you do? Oh, it was okay so many years ago. It's not today. Whatever. Like, it's so nothing that I think it was just never worth doing in the first place. But yeah, what do you guys think? Like, is it?
I don't know what outcome they were expecting from that. You know
I know.
what I mean? Like, how could you expect anything but negative feedback from that? And like you said, it's just seems so out of character for The Simpsons, a show that, like, you know, from, you know, traditional like gender roles in the family, like they're always poking fun at these really like old school norms.
They always have, yeah.
Yeah, and like, you know, yeah, like we were talking about this earlier, but you know, like Marge, you know, being like the housewife and Homer's like the breadwinner, but they like poke fun at that in a way that it's like, this isn't right, kind of thing. Whereas, yeah, I'm just like, why would you do that? So out of character for what, like the comedy and like the political and intelligent humor that they used to bring. That, yeah, I don't know. Like, because I have said that The Simpsons is like my favorite show, and it's just like, it really hurts.
It does.
Like, why'd you do this to me?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's like, if you're going to have such a weak and unrepentant response, at least make it funny.
That is it.
At least make it funny. I think it's a crime against comedy too. That it's like you chose to do it in this way that is just so incredibly unfunny and like just comedically tone deaf.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it compounds the pain.
Yeah.
And it's like, not only did you give the most lackluster, like spineless response you possibly could, but you did it in a context that wasn't even funny. So
Yeah.
it's like it fails on every conceivable level.
Yep. Yeah.
Totally.
It's just
Massachusetts.
it's totally neutral. Like, that's, yeah. I don't know. I think.
And as well, like, Hank Azaria voices so many other characters on The Simpsons. Like, it's not like they're like, but think about Hank.
Yeah.
Poor Hank.
Yeah.
He's only going to have like
put his kids
23
through
characters.
college. Yeah. So it's like, not only could they do that, you know, like introduce a different voice actor, but then actually have some sort of progression in Apu's character. Like,
Yeah. Well, that's it. Like, people are saying, like, oh, it's his beloved character. Like, why do you want to change something, you know, that's that old now.
Everybody's been ragging
It's like-
on The Simpsons for the last, 15 years.
Exactly,
Like,
now-
I don't think they have anything to lose at this point.
It's crazy. Like, the people that are coming out of the woodwork on Twitter, like, all of a sudden, like, the biggest fans of The Simpsons again. Like, who has watched The Simpsons, like, in the
Yeah,
last few years,
exactly.
really?
No
Like,
one's
I've
actually
definitely
watching.
repeat watched, the first 12 seasons every day
Yeah.
for
That's
the last
where you
25
stop.
years. But that's where you stop, and that's it.
Yeah, nobody really is going to care if they totally remove the character or change the voice actor. And, like, the problem is also, like, what do people actually love about the character? They love the really racist
Yeah.
accent that he's putting on.
Yeah,
Like,
the like super like harmful pejorative stereotypes.
yeah.
That's basically like no one loves Apu for his depth and meaning.
Yeah, exactly.
Although, they have injected the character with some depth and meaning.
Yeah,
They have.
yeah, no,
over the years.
definitely.
Uh,
Like, he
It doesn't
is.
excuse the broad stereotype, but
Yeah.
he is a richly drawn character.
Definitely. And there are episodes where it's like, Apu is one of the most sensible, caring people in the show.
Like he's the voice of reason.
definitely.
Through a lot of it.
And,
And
when
then,
they have
like-
that entire episode about Apu being an illegal immigrant to America and his ties, to America, and that's his home and everything, and that's another example where it's yes, The Simpsons did it so right, they were poking fun at, conservative views of, other people and other cultures existing in America, and then it's how can it be the same show? How can you
And
have
then,
that episode and
yeah.
then now this?
A season later, they'll have an episode where they're, criticizing the Hindu religion, for the one where he's cheating. What's that?
Yeah. We're cheating on Manjula.
Yes, yeah. And that episode gets a little sketchy, if you rewatch it, in terms of the way that they kind of poke fun of the religion and stuff like that. And just every stereotype that he not only is that he is portrayed through the voice acting, but clerk store, owner, he picks up old food off the ground and resells it, all that sort of stuff. Super damaging, but yeah. Anyway, so really let us down. The big thing for me is it. As you said, Adam, just the humor was there was no humor there. There was no joke. It reminds me of the few times where after Family Guy became big and they started this kind of feud between Family Guy and The Simpsons, and Simpsons started trying to get a little edgier, trying to get away with a little bit more, and
trying to adopt a style of humor that was already god awful.
Yeah, exactly right.
That's the thing. It's do whatever you do not emulate Family Guy.
Yeah,
It's just the cheapest, most terrible humor.
Exactly right. And they started doing the flashback scenes and that sort of stuff. Just look at their rich history, of Simpsons episode. Look at what made you good.
Exactly.
Mr.
Look at
Bergstrom, and just let that be the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at how Family Guy ripped you off.
Exactly right.
And do that.
Yeah.
To me, the apologies just seems kind of half baked. It's almost there. It recognizes a problem that you can find in a lot of pieces of their time, in that there was a problem in the representation, but it was accepted back then. But then it kind of doesn't take it the step further that, it's not acceptable now, and here's why it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
It needs
It just
that
shrugs its
elaboration.
shoulders.
Yeah, exactly right.
It kind of excuses itself rather than being recognizing that it was a product of its time, and here's the progression, here's how we move forward.
Yeah, exactly. It's
and
just
making some sort of
yeah.
action from that.
Yeah.
It's what you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know.
And that's why we stopped watching
Not watch
The
The Simpsons. That's what we're gonna do.
Cool. So when we come back, we're going to talk about what we've been watching this week, and then kind of in the same vein as the Apu problem, we're going to be talking about TV shows and movies that you couldn't make in 2018. We'll be right back. Yeah. Back. We're going to talk about what we've been watching this week. Sally, what have you been checking out?
So I haven't finished the season, admittedly, because it only came out on Netflix last week. But I've been watching Troy: Fall of a City.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of you know, like a hybrid of fantasy, historical drama, obviously about the 10-year Trojan War that Brad Pitt and Orlando Bloom and Eric Bana brought into my life.
They famously fought in. Brave veterans all, we owe them a debt of gratitude.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you know, a tale as old as time that we all know and love. But
That's what I say
That
about
I
the
do.
Trojan War. Oh, that one. I
Kids
love
these
it.
days, they're all about the Iliad. Cannot get enough of it. They're sneaking. They got a copy under the mattress. You know, the mom's cleaning the room. They're like, I found this copy of the Iliad under your mattress, and they're like, oh, it's not mine.
You should be watching Homer Simpson, not
Exactly.
reading Homer.
Sneaking off to the woods to read the Iliad. You know,
exactly.
like showing each other, like, oh my God, look what like Paris just did.
Centerfold of Helen of Troy.
Yeah, that's right.
And the other stuff that happened.
But anyway, yeah, so it's
Is your teen engaging in the dangerous new trend of king priaming?
Oh. But yeah, so I've watched around 3 episodes of that. I think it's 8 episodes long in total. So far, mixed reviews. I thought that because it's a TV series that they'd be going into a lot more detail than some of the other like adaptations that I've seen. But it seems like a little bit rushed at this point, but I don't know if maybe they're just trying to rush into the action. But what I do like about it is that, unlike, say, the film, it has like that kind of representation of the history, but also the mythology. So a lot of like the Greek gods and goddesses, who are, you know, involved in that mythology, are in the show and are like
Characters?
yeah, are actual characters
Oh,
that
that's
are very
cool.
involved in the storyline. So I think that the way that they sort of weave that in and out has been really good so far, and that's what I've really loved. So yeah, I think if you're a fan of, you know, like Game of Thrones or Vikings, you'll probably like this. Although I haven't, you know, I'm only around halfway through, so maybe my
You might like
perception
the
will
first
change.
3 episodes. Who knows?
And that was something that I always wanted from Vikings, was to see more of, like, you know, the mythology
Yeah.
like come to life. Like, I know that it's not that kind of show now,
Yeah.
but when I first started watching it, like, that's why I think, I can see Odin and Thor and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I want that show.
Yeah, and they have a little bit more of that like fantasy element in some of the earlier seasons, and I think that's what they're kind of doing in Troy. So it'll be interesting to see if that continues to play out. But yeah, only a few episodes in, and there's already been some epic battle scenes, steamy love scenes.
Oh,
Gosh,
yeah.
damn.
What
I
more
wonder
do you
how
need?
it's going to end. Oh my God.
That's the thing. It really
It's
keeps you in
not good.
suspense.
That is the trick with watching, you know, shows like that, though. Like, I love watching The Tudors as well. That's one of my favourite shows. And, yeah, and still I'd be like, what's going to happen? Is she going to make it? She doesn't. Am I kidding myself?
That's my excuse for being so ignorant to history. Is like, I don't want to spoil the movie, man. Like,
Including, like, current affairs.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
exactly.
in 5 years, this is going to be an epic. I want to wait to the cinemas.
I want to see what Spielberg has to say about this.
But yeah, so if you do like that, you know, kind of period drama fantasy, check it out.
If you, like all teen boys, are into, like, way into the Iliad, then this is the show for you.
Pretty much.
To be honest, guys, I ain't been watching shit.
Oh,
Honestly,
Adam.
I know.
Controversy.
What I did get into a little bit the other night is some Planet Earth.
Oh,
I jumped on some
I'm
Planet
so
Earth.
proud of you.
Planet Earth
How
too.
good are the antelope?
Yeah, they're crazy. You mean the ibex that are like on the side of the cliff, like
The-
just hang?
The ones with the
Oh
funny
no, I didn't
noses?
get that far.
Oh, I love
I didn't
those.
get
There,
that
I was
far.
just
And
like,
they're
I have a
like-
new favorite animal.
spoilers.
I think
Sally.
my thing is I tend to talk back to the screen what I imagine the animals are saying
Oh,
at
yeah, I do
every
that
moment.
too.
So like, you know, they have the part where the penguin father has been away for 2 days
Oh
looking
my
for food.
God.
And he's
tear
making
my
his
heart
way.
out.
He's making his way slowly back to the nest, and the mother and the chicks are sitting there, and they're hungry and they're desperate. And finally, he gets there. And of course, to me, immediately, I think like, Bernice, do not start with me.
Not today.
Oh God.
So that was pretty much my experience, is watching it and just saying to the screen out loud, even though I was by myself, the things that I thought the animals would be saying in that
What else
moment.
would you do? Learn?
I think-
Can we do like a special edition of the podcast where it's just...
I was just about to say, can we mic up Adam, send him home, infiltrate?
Oh my god, amazing! I would love that. Dramatic adaptation by Adam. Go. Adam.
Bringing it back full circle.
So the gazelles have made a strong comeback in season 2. Are they...
I like the sloth. He was my favorite.
He was
character.
pretty
He made a
cool.
funny noise.
He
He
was
was
pretty
great. Isn't nature wonderful? And look at us, just shitty mammals.
There's some plants out there.
Yeah.
Nature in the
My
show.
God. My God.
Definitely real.
All right, what have you been watching? Huh?
Oh, thank
Aside
God
from
we're off that.
wrestling.
I know. Jeez.
Apart from wrestling, I have been diving into the first season of American Horror Story.
Ooh, i.e. the only good one.
Yes, that's what I've heard. But I've also heard that the second season is very scary, which I am terrified for because I have been in like a constant anxious state for like the past week. I've felt sick. I can't like sleep with the light off. It's just like things are terrible.
Yeah, look, that's how I felt. I thought the first season was legitimately scary. The second season, there was so much going on that it just absolutely lost my
Oh,
attention.
don't do
Like,
that.
it just didn't scare me because it's like I can't make heads or tails.
Second
what
half
I'm
of the
supposed to be
season, I
scared
think,
of here.
I think the first half of that season is solid. In the asylum before you start,
Hey,
Ah.
hey.
So much there's so much stuff going on.
Yeah.
You know, it just does. It completely lost me.
away.
Yeah, and it's like I can't figure out a direction in which to be afraid.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas the first one was so much more focused. It's just a haunted house.
Yeah.
I feel like
It's
there still is
that's
a lot of stuff going on, so
scary.
that makes
There
me
is,
terrified
yeah.
for season
Well, no,
2.
there's lots going on, but it's really just a haunted house story.
yeah. But you've got the gimp guy and stuff that we're not quite sure what that is. At the
Right.
start.
Yeah. But,
I
yeah,
haven't
at
finished
its-
it yet, so don't spoil it. I have 2 more episodes.
Yeah. At its core, it's a very like. There's a lot of crazy shit, but it's like at its core, it's really just about a haunted house.
Yeah, it ties
And
in
it's
nicely,
like that's what I really like about
Yeah.
it.
And they've repeated that mistake in every season since, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. There have been seasons that I've enjoyed, but none that have actually scared me
Yeah.
since the first one.
Agreed.
The first one I definitely found legitimately scary.
Good. I'm not the only one. I'm never usually afraid of like any paranormal-esque stuff because I don't really believe in it. But ooh, this is just like I feel like I'm on the brink of like a nervous breakdown at the moment. I'm like I don't know what's around me. I'm scared to go home.
Watch Channel Zero. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
Gonna come in next week and I'm just like shaking.
Camel eat me.
So that's the story.
Great. I've been watching Legion. We're all going to watch it. Understood nobody had the chance. Sally, you didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go on. You
And then
explain why you
all right.
liked it, and then I can rip it to shreds.
Man. And then we'll piss all over something you like.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys
My
already did
Chemical
that with Troy.
Romance.
Don't bring my chem into this, okay?
Fake
How
chemo.
the podcast fell apart.
All right, there's so much I love about Legion. So, obviously, as I mentioned last week, it's by Noah Hawley, who's mostly famous for his take on Fargo, his TV series adaptations, series 1, 2, and 3. Obviously, all very different from the movie. Not so much the first movie, but 2 and 3 obviously are very, very different. And as I said, I think Fargo gets weird. Like every season has like one kind of weird, almost supernatural element.
Yeah, I love that about it.
Me too.
I absolutely love that about it.
Me too. And where you're not quite sure if it's just like what the character's seeing, or if it's a spoilers.
Yeah.
It's
you're like,
a
where
few
the
years
hell
old
did
now.
that come
Yeah,
from?
what? This won't spoil too much, but it's typically a show about gangsters, cops. A lot of bloodshed. And then a UFO pops up in season 2.
and is instrumental to the plot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, what the hell? And you're not going to explain this
Not at all.
all.
No,
It's beautiful.
I do love that about it. Legion has a lot of that, and I can see why that might not be for everybody. It's so basically the main character is schizophrenic. He's hearing voices. So the first kind of 2 to 3 episodes, you're constantly questioning what you're seeing and if it's real. He kind of gets thrown into like this whole plot with a government conspiracy, and all the way you're thinking, is what I'm seeing real, or is this through his mind? Because he has personalities living within him, Aubrey Plaza being one of them. Aubrey Plaza's character, not the Aubrey Plaza, the actress. That'd be great.
That's an
ate
incredible
me.
twist.
Yeah.
That's an incredible twist. That Aubrey Plaza, the actress we know and love, actually is merely
Exists within you.
it just exists within all of
The
us.
demon within
I think
all
we
of
need to
us.
start writing these ideas down, guys. Viewfinder Productions. Season 2 is off to a good start, in my opinion. It's doing this. It's got the same problem as I had with Mr. Robot Season 2, which is where it's kind of falling back on problems that you thought you had solved in Season 1. So, as I said, a lot of Season 1 is you kind of trying to figure out what's real, what's not. By the end of Season 1, you have a very good idea of what's, everything's very clear, like who the characters are, where they stand, and he kind of has a grasp on his schizophrenia, and like, no spoilers here, but he does have superpowers. Obviously, it's a Marvel TV show.
My God.
Wow! And so the start of Season 2 kind of tries to throw a curveball at you again and start to question what you saw in Season 1 and whether or not he's fully in it. And you're like, I don't know, you feel like you've already gone on that journey. And it feels like a bit of a cheap move to like then throw you back. And as I said, Mr. Robot Season 2 did that as well. In saying that, Dan Stevens is always a treat. Aubrey Plaza is still in it, but she got only a small bit of screen time this week. And Flight of the Conchords' Jermaine Clement is a big part of it. He kind of comes in halfway through Season 1, and then by the end becomes a huge part of the TV show. And as they did at the start of Season 1, they have a 2-minute long dance scene in a nightclub with Jermaine Clement, Aubrey Plaza, and Dan Stevens just busting out, and it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. It's shot so well. If you guys get a chance over the next week, do test it out. Like Sally, you've given it a shot. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, so I think in the first episode of our podcast, I mentioned that I'm not a fan of sci-fi or superhero movies, or I don't like Marvel films.
She just hates everything.
No, I hate happiness and joy. But I was willing to give it a shot. I do love Dan Stevens. I thought that he was really good. But I only made it in around 3 episodes of the first season. And as you mentioned, you're kind of grappling with what's going on. Is this really happening? There's a lot of flashbacks as well that, kind of distort storyline. And I think, yeah, like you said, once you've watched a couple of episodes, you get your head around it and you're like, okay, cool. But there just wasn't really anything that was compelling me to stick with it to get to that point. I was watching it being I know this is going to make sense eventually, but I just don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, that's fair
You
enough.
just get to that point where you're I'm just not enjoying myself. I was watching it and kept being maybe I should fold some washing. Maybe I should check my
Just
phone.
go out of
Do
my room.
anything
Maybe I
other
should-
than this.
Yeah, literally. So
Perhaps I'll pull out this dog-eared copy of the Iliad. I do have the house to myself after all.
yeah, literally tied a sheet around myself, Simpson style. But yeah, so I do appreciate. While I was watching it, I was ooh, good acting, great casting and everything. But yeah, I just think that it's not for me. So that was kind of it. So
Sound effects.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I was speaking to a friend about it this morning, and about how I felt bad specifically for lumping this show on everybody that I obviously love, but might not be loved by everybody. Because I do think it's like we discussed, it's not a superhero TV show. It's just set within the Marvel universe. He's obviously got superpowers, but it's not your typical superhero show.
It was definitely better than any superhero show or movie that I've ever seen.
Yay.
That says something.
Does that mean it's actually good then?
It is.
The
Okay,
storyline and it isn't all just action. The whole point of it isn't just to have a bunch of action scenes. There's obviously a storyline in it, but I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about this morning. I'm I obviously want people to love it, but then in the back of my mind, I know I do I'm familiar with those characters through the comic book, so even though it's so loosely connected to that universe, I am still the hook for me is waiting for it to tie in.
Right, yeah,
And,
like you're already emotionally invested.
Exactly
in the
right.
Universe.
Yeah. And I know like the characters that could appear and like all that sort of stuff, and you're just kind of like waiting for that to happen. So
Brody, are we both nerds?
I think so.
I think we might be.
Unlike Ali and I. Wrestling and
Yeah, we're super cool.
Great, yeah. So that's what we've been watching this week. Legion is currently streaming on Foxtel. American Horror Story is Netflix. Really, how many seasons do you know?
There's
a few seasons.
There's some seasons.
There's definitely seasons.
If you want a season or you want 2 seasons, you've got them.
More than 0.
Yes.
Oh, but can we just say as well, Sarah Paulson is just
she's
amazing.
Which one's that?
She's recurring in every season.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
she's
think. What's
in
her
every
character in? Oh, she's the clairvoyant in season 1. Is there a clairvoyant?
God, I can't
There
remember.
is a clairvoyant, but I didn't really care for her.
I can't. No, she plays. God, I can't remember. I can't remember who she plays in season 1.
Oh, yeah.
Who are you?
She becomes more frequent in the following
Yeah.
seasons,
Yeah, I
and
remember
she's
her from
almost
season
always
3.
the best thing about the show.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
100%.
Yeah.
There are
That's good.
seasons that she's the only good thing about
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah.
I like the old lady.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Jessica Lange?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
she's
wait, yeah? Yeah, I think so.
phenomenal. Yeah, Jessica Lange's awesome.
I'm really good with the names, obviously. I'm just like
Yeah.
the one that does the things, that pitter patters around.
Yeah, she's great.
Great. So when we're back, we'll talk about TV shows and films that you couldn't make in 2018. Move on to talking about TV shows and movies that you couldn't make in 2018. I'm going to start with they might be a little obvious, and for obvious reasons, but a couple of comedies that haven't aged too well.
Not
Number 1.
many laughs now.
Look who's laughing now, not
No
me.
one.
No one. Oh, Sally, great joke.
You did it.
I'm just a bit too slow. Anyway.
Speaking of comedy that hasn't aged well, this podcast.
So the obvious one is American Pie, which isn't really that long ago. Well, I'm showing my age. I don't know what year is it?
20 years?
It's like 2000, was it?
Yeah,
Early-
so 2000s.
early thousands.
Early 2000s.
What year is it?
Currently?
2018. Yeah.
Where are we?
Who is the president?
Moon
You're
pie.
not gonna like it.
It was Earth the whole time. You blew it up, you maniacs.
American Pie has not aged well, and for obvious reasons, but if you forget what the basic plot, it's about some randy teens looking for some love, and the lengths that they go to are quite questionable. Setting up webcams in girls' bedrooms, watching them get undressed, and broadcasting that footage to the entire world. Oh, the school at least. Sorry,
Yeah.
this is probably pre Reddit.
But that's so true. There's so many comedies like that are like, wow, you should go to prison for that.
Yeah.
Like Animal House. There's a scene in Animal House where like he wheels a girl home in a shopping trolley and she's like 15 and he's like taking advantage of her and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, so many gross things. Porky's, where they're like spying on the girls
In the shower.
in the shower.
After
like,
the
in
one,
the-
yeah.
yeah.
Well, the other one here I've got is Revenge of the Nerds, right? So
Yeah, like where he like what
two big things there. So to get their revenge on the jocks, they print out naked photos of one of the jocks' girlfriends and kind of a cheerleader, I suppose, stereotype, and on the bottom of pies that they're selling at the fair. And so like basically everybody in the school eats the pies, and this kind of innocent party is just exposed naked to everybody, which is just great, quality humor.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, of course, I think the same character gets incredibly drunk and thinks that the nerd is her boyfriend, and
Right,
he goes
and he just
ahead
goes
and,
along with
yeah,
it.
and
Yeah. Like honestly, 80s comedies were basically like, stuff that you should go
it's
to
a
prison
minefield.
for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, that covers some very disturbing ground.
I want
Yeah.
to put on a jumper suddenly. Like
Honestly,
a large turtleneck. I feel too
I
exposed.
feel super dirty now.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah,
is
break.
That's so much of 80s comedy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like
And like when I was thinking about this, that's pretty much all that kept coming to me was 80s comedy. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I was trying to think of like other interesting plots that like couldn't happen these days, and it's just like, no, it's just all the really rotten humor that we definitely couldn't get away with today, nor want to.
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't we get away with it?
Hey,
That's what
that's
I
what I'm saying.
bring me
have a
my
laugh these
fedora.
Yeah, so they're my two choices. Ali, did you pick anything for this
I
one?
did pick something, guys. It's an Australian treasure. Chris Lilly, in general.
Oh my goodness.
Ooh, boy.
Problematic. I would say couldn't be made today. Shouldn't have been made
At
even
the
when
time.
it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what?
it wasn't
when
that
was
long
it made?
ago.
It was about, I reckon,
Summer
10
It was
years
about
ago.
2008.
I was definitely in high school.
Yeah,
Summer Heights High was
High
2008.
Look at
Yeah.
2007. Look at it.
Yeah,
He's beautiful.
and then We Can Be Heroes was maybe like 2005 or something.
Before
as well.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
because we actually watched We Can Be Heroes at school, like in free periods and stuff
Yeah.
like that, which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, how do you phrase this? Is blackface okay?
Well-
Unequivocally 100% in no circumstance.
Correct.
Ever.
Correct.
CC Chris Lilly.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
And the thing is about Summer Heights High and just the Chris Lilly universe, I'm saying it kind of similar to the Marvel universe, is that it seems that it's still not accepted that it's not okay.
Well, just look at
Netflix-
his social media profiles, right? He's constantly like, it's not like he's apologized. He's constantly like reposting, like, you know, all these old clips in blackface, like rapping and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So there's no like.
And Netflix was going to renew.
They've given him. They've commissioned a project from him. Whether that's an existing character or not, we're not sure.
But
That's just
still, he's not being
He's still being-
reprimanded in any
no.
way.
He's being
Supported.
rewarded.
Yeah.
And can I also say, kind of like the Simpsons thing, one of the gravest crimes is he's just not funny.
Exactly right.
Like,
Yeah.
that's
We were talking about this the other day, so it was funny when we were in high school. Like we thought it was funny, you know, just
Yeah.
because it was funny to quote. Like that's why the Jonah Tackle was something that everybody in my year like quoted, which it was never funny, but it was funny.
It was
It
relevant.
was aimed at those
because
teenagers.
it was set in a
Yeah.
school.
And and as a child, you thought that was funny.
Yeah, but
Yeah, no. And yeah, I think it's the lack of knowledge and awareness of what is okay now. And even though it's only 10 years ago, the political landscape has changed so much that that sort of stuff is being called out now, rightfully,
Yeah.
and that it's not okay. But I don't know. I don't know if there's that learning on his
Yeah,
end.
like you see the occasional article about it, and that's about it. And usually when those articles are written, then you see, you know, hundreds of comments of people defending him, being like, it's just a joke. It's funny.
But
It's
that's-
like,
yeah, which is easy
Yeah.
to say when you're not the group that's targeted by
Yeah.
it.
yeah, when you're
exactly
not
right.
the butt of that joke.
Yeah. See, that's the thing is like comedy, like good comedy punches up, not down.
yeah.
And that's you look at his comedy and it all seems like it's just punching down. So something that probably couldn't be made in 2018, Space 1999,
Oh, because
because it's set in 1999.
and we're not in space yet.
Oh, he did. I was like,
Oh.
I haven't seen it. Oh my god, what am I gonna get now? It's like, what are they gonna do to women? Terrifying.
Actually, what I was going to say is, and this is a bit of a minefield, and I don't know how to address it. But Blazing Saddles feels like a movie that couldn't be made today, but that was insanely progressive, and in a lot of ways still is insanely progressive. And I'm not like, I am absolutely not advocating that, like, you know, that there's anything wrong with being much more sensitive towards these things. But I wouldn't look at Blazing Saddles and say that it's, you know, there's some humor in it that's quite borderline.
Yeah.
Not the racial stuff so much because it's punching up.
Yes.
Every single time it's
Yeah.
punching up. You know, I mean, it was written by Richard Pryor.
Exactly right.
So,
and in the
like-
lead role, you know.
Yeah, and you've got Cleavon Little in the lead role. So it's punching up all the time when it comes to racial humor. There are a few places where it punches down at other, you know, in other areas.
Yeah.
but definitely couldn't be made today because it's just far too edgy, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have a value judgment on that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it
It
probably
is
wouldn't
good
get
now.
probably wouldn't get made today. Most of Richard Pryor's stand-up wouldn't fly today.
Yeah, true.
Go on, prove him wrong.
Yeah. Are you brave enough? Yeah, it's again, like Revenge of the Nerds and Blazing Saddles were two movies that we just had on loop at my grandparents' house on VHS, and at the time I loved those. And like you said, Blazing Saddles
It's still a tremendous movie.
It's still a tremendous movie. Themes, racism, like flew over my head, obviously, at such a young age. Probably shouldn't have maybe even been watching that kind of movie at such an age.
Yeah.
But when you return to these things like years later, and you're like, oh, like that's it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. And I think that's where these people come from, like who defend it, like you're saying, Chris Lilly, or online. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. It's because they can't bring themselves to realize that this thing that they cherished and loved and like for years is problematic.
Yeah.
Jesse Lacey.
Sorry,
Oh,
still too soon.
Yeah.
Not the emo
This is-
podcast.
yeah.
I just I wanted to.
Yeah, I agree. Because I also, loved Summer Heights High and We Can Be Heroes as well. But just looking back at it now, you're just like, that's not okay. And I think it's okay to admit that 10 years ago, might have thought it was funny when you're a teenager or whatever, but just being like, no, it's effed up and
Yeah,
let's move
well,
on.
it's okay to realize that you've grown,
Yeah.
and like that, like, oh, these things that I laughed at, I now realize that it's like that's actually not okay to laugh at because it's not, it's sitting in a position of privilege and laughing at something rather than laughing with something.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is I think it's like, Jonah from Tonga. If the Tongan community had made that, show, a caricature of themselves, then it's like that they are in the position to actually, because that's their lived experience, and they could actually make that show with some authority. When a white guy does it, it's like, no, that's not okay. That's not your lived experience.
Exactly,
You're
right.
taking someone else's lived experience and like filtering it through your own privilege.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Sally has a little lighter example of a movie that you could make in 2018.
Yeah, like there were so many examples down that vein that I felt like I could have mentioned, but thought maybe lighten it up or just go for a different angle. More, shows that wouldn't translate in 2018 because of technology and the things that we have access to now that, there would just be many, many holes in the plot line. And the first thing that came to mind for me regarding that was Seinfeld. So many episodes, but the one that I'm going to talk about now is the Chinese restaurant. So the episode, I think it was made in 1991, so before I was even born. But season 2, I think that was.
Adam.
Mortality is real.
But basically, the plot of that episode is that the Seinfeld gang are going to a Chinese restaurant for dinner before they're about to head out for a movie. They're waiting for a table and they're constantly being told, 2 to 5 minutes, won't be long. Obviously, it is a long time that they're waiting. Meanwhile, George has had like a bit of an awkward interaction with his girlfriend the evening before, so he's like, I want to call her up and like invite her to dinner. So he's waiting at like, the payphone at the restaurant, and it's constantly being occupied, and he's, and then once it isn't, he calls his girlfriend, she doesn't pick up, he has to leave a voicemail of all things, and then she calls the restaurant back, they call out a different surname, not Costanza, he misses it, there's just a big whole kerfuffle, and I think a reason why that couldn't be made in 2018 is, one, like, they probably would have ordered Uber Eats anyway. If they're in a rush to go see a movie, one, they would have booked the tickets online so they don't even have to worry really about, getting there in time to line up for the tickets. But would have ordered Uber Eats, that would make more sense.
They'd have the little buzzer to tell them when their table was ready.
Exactly. They could have, like, booked the table in advance via an app. Even if they were waiting in line, at some hot new Chinese restaurant, as, as one might do even in 2018, he would have texted his girlfriend. There would have been no miscommunication there. She probably would have been there before he even was able to get to the payphone. And they probably wouldn't have even gone to the movies. They would have just watched Netflix at home.
Well, that sounds goddamn hilarious. Like a laugh riot, that scenario you're laying out.
But see what I mean? Like, it just wouldn't work. But have you guys seen the Twitter account? And I think it's called, like, it's a few years old, but it's Modern Seinfeld.
Modern Seinfeld. I've got it up here.
So I think Seinfeld, or, you know, so many other sitcoms from the 90s, are an example where certain episodes or plot lines wouldn't work, but I think the show would. So I think one example tweet was, it was like Elaine texts her, you know, friend with benefits, being like, come over and let's watch Netflix. And then he's like, cool, so what are we going to watch? And she's like, come on! And I think that's an example where it's like, I can see that being like a Seinfeld plot, but in, you know, the 21st century.
Well, pretty much just watch Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, exactly.
That is
that'll
Seinfeld
solve
today.
all of the issues.
That is Seinfeld today.
I got one here. When George falls for a Twitter bot, Kramer claims he once catfished himself. Jerry, how is that even possible? Kramer, oh, I'm good, Jerry. I'm real good.
Oh, man.
Oh, great. So that's, movies and TV shows you couldn't make in 2018. I do like that idea of, you know, like technology and solving every problem ever. It's like looking at MacGyver.
Yeah, there's heaps of shows like that. It's like just a little bit of modern technology would have completely destroyed the premise of the show.
Yeah, totally. Home Alone is, I think, the most often used example. They just send the parents a text.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm home alone. Crap, we're coming back. The end. Fun was had by all.
Yeah, so I thought today we could end on a little surprise. What?
And off come Brody's pants.
No, we were just talking about being progressive.
And out comes a copy of the Iliad. It's about to get nuts in
Jared,
here.
hit the lights. Cool. So, a little today I learned. So, do you guys remember the hot guy from 10 Things I Hate About You?
Which one?
Who was competing for Alex Mack's love with Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Yes,
Alex
I
Mack
do.
is obviously not the actress's name.
The Alex Mack.
He had like a pretty. I mean, he's so iconic in my mind as that jock, you know, that hot jock in 10 Things I Hate About You. But his career afterwards kind of took a little bit of a nosedive. There was a lot of direct-to-video stuff. So, don't ask me how I ended up here, but I ended up Googling Andrew Keegan just to see what he's up to these days. In 2014, Andrew Keegan founded Full Circle, a community spiritual center based out of Venice Beach, California. Vice has characterized the organization as a new religion. Other outlets have called it a cult. In an interview with All Access Music, Keegan described the group as a non-denominational spiritual community center where people of all beliefs and backgrounds come together to meditate, practice yoga, and engage artistically. So... This is where it gets interesting.
I was going to say, I like to think that he came down off the mountaintop with stone tablets that had 10 things God hates.
Oh shit! Okay, so this is where it takes a little bit of a twist. In May 2015, the Full Circle Temple was raided by California alcohol beverage control officers. The raid was apparently related to the Full Circle's distribution of kombucha. A fermented beverage made from sweet black tea. So yeah, that's just a little today I learned about the hot guy from 10 Things I Hate About You. I hope you enjoyed that, and next week I'll bring you a little the tidbit, whatever I find Googling in bed. Great.
Oh boy.
Thanks for a great third episode, guys. It's been really
Have
fun.
we made it.
Huh?
We made it.
I think we have. And now we can finally put all 3 episodes up, even though each week we said that it'll be up this Friday. So this time we might actually be telling the truth.
Time is just a social construct.
The truth is
That's
fun.
true. That is true. I've had a lot of fun today, guys. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Brody. You're welcome,
It's so
Brody.
nice to sit here with all of you.
Cool. See you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Viewfinder podcast. You can find the latest streaming news, reviews, and roundups at finder.com.au/streaming. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Finder Tech, and email your questions and feedback to view@finder.com.